It's me, Vera, here to remind you that this is an adult podcast. That means we're going to deal with tough topics. Take a break if you need it, and be kind to yourself, because we sure won't be.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Stich of Fate, a Vampire the Masquerade 5th edition podcast. As always, I am your storyteller, Mike Martin, joined by my four players, Josh, Bub, Dot, and Mark. Hello.
Hello.
We made it, Mathis. We made it
We
this
did.
far.
We made it to the end of season 2, everybody. It's the final episode, and I am very excited for moving forward in this episode. I'm sure everybody here is varying degrees of excited and nervous, depending on who you may be and where you might be going in this particular episode, but we'll find out. But before we get going, I just want to say a big thank you to everybody who supported us. We didn't have a season 2 without you guys on Patreon. You allowed us to kind of push forward and keep doing this. And you continue to allow us to keep doing this. So without further ado, we'll take this moment to announce that, yes, indeed, there will be a season 3.
Woo-woo!
So by the end of the episode, if you're like, wait a minute, I still have a question or two, don't worry, there's a reason. We are going to be able to continue the story hereafter. We obviously going to do our one-shots first, and then, much like last time, we'll then move into season 3 with all the excitement and fanfare we could hope for. So if you want to see more of this stuff and you want to support us directly, patreon.com/podbynight is your best bet, and it helps us out a great deal. Again, as always, if you can't do that, spreading the word, letting people know, and just telling people about the show also goes a long way, as does rating us on whatever podcast app you're dropping, or leaving a review. All that does magical algorithm things. So go do that simultaneously. And the last thing I will say is we have a Discord. Anybody can join it. Whether you're on the Patreon or not, you can join it. If you are on the Patreon, there's a secret Patreon only room where you can come hang out and talk with us about more spoilerific things and more behind the scene things.
Our personal little blood room.
Exactly. It's literally called the Blood Room. It's great. Come check it out and hang out. But if you just want to jump on, there's a spoiler room as well for everybody else, and plenty of things to talk about. The community's great over there. They are constantly theorizing as to what's going on, and it's always a pleasure to peep in every so often and be like, what does everybody think about the story so far? So head over there. It's a great time. We hope to see you there. I think that's it. So I think it's the time, finally, ladies and gentlemen, to wrap up season 2. So without further ado, let's bring everything down, rein it in, and see what our coterie is up to. The camera fades in on a half moon in the sky as clouds pass by. The sounds of crickets and frogs can be heard as the camera pans down to see empty fields and forest of Central Park. Milling about and walking down one of the paths is our dear Shaun, alone with a phone in his hand, checking it every so often. It's at this point, Shaun, that you remember Central Park is enormous. And to say simply Central Park, now that you're here, feels like a misdirect. You wander and you don't know where to go. Can I get a wits awareness from you, please?
No.
You continue to aimlessly wander. The sounds of nighttime nature in abundance around you, and even figures who are walking the part at this late hour in the distance are milling about and stuff. You avoid them for the most part, unless, you're looking for our dear Larson, but no luck. And you wander for the better part of an hour. Before one more wits awareness, please.
Mm-hmm. This is... I need to spend points in this.
Yeah. Still, though, you have 2 successes this time. And as you're wandering down one of the paths, you look over to the trees that are off to your right-hand side, just looking around for anybody, and you see, peculiarly at this particular point in the night, being 2 o'clock in the morning, a couple of squirrels, perked up by a nearby bench, sat on top of it, both very clearly watching you. As you walk past them, their heads turn, and they continue to kind of watch before one jumps off and scurries off into the forest. Before long, the other one also jumps off but scurries to the other side of the road.
That's weird. Shaun's gonna sit on the bench for a moment and watch where the squirrels went.
As you sit on the bench and perhaps wait the squirrels to return, a good 30 minutes pass before you hear footsteps off to your left-hand side coming from out of the brush. As you turn around and look, crawling out of the bushes in a rather dirty suit is Larson. He seems to be climbing out of like a nearby tree, and he steps onto the ground and makes his way over to you. I understand that probably out of game sounded like I'm implying he was the squirrel. I'm not. He's just coming out of the woods. he's just kind of coming out of the woods. That's all. He was not gangrel transformed into a squirrel, I promise.
I wouldn't put it past him.
Larson makes his way up behind you, places an arm on your shoulder, and gestures for you to stand up and follow.
Hey.
Hey, bud?
This where you live?
No. He shakes his head.
I look at the dirt stains. Okay, sure.
He kind of shrugs as he begins to walk, as you clearly look him up and down. He says, been a busy couple of nights, not a lot of time to myself.
Yeah, let's get going.
He walks you out of the park. And as you reach the skirts of the park and the main road start gathering, a particular tinted car rolls up very quietly. He opens the back door for you to enter. As you look into the back door, you immediately see a man with a mohawk, rainbow colored all the way down, rather short, with just a white t-shirt with no discerning logos and jeans sitting in the back. He is well built.
Yeah. I give him like a fake tip of the cap and kind of crawl my way in to the car.
The door is shut behind you as Larson steps himself into the passenger front side seat. The person at the driving seat does not pay any attention to you, merely catching eyes with you in the rearview mirror for a moment. As Larson shuts the door, the car begins to roll off. There's an awkward silence amongst the four of you for a while until eventually you peel off into a more proper highway and begin to slowly make your way out of New York City, even bustling rather busily on nights like tonight, this late. After, we'll say, a good 20 or so minutes, you hit the highway. Larson finally turns. The seat he's in creaks and crinkles as he turns around, placing one arm on the back of the chair to lean over and get you kind of a full look. He looks at the other two and he's like, I just want you to know whatever you want to say can be said in front of them. They're with me. Have been for a while. No, you're not going to get their names. That's not the point of this right now. I have a few questions, though. And I'm sure you have a few. We've got a hell of a drive ahead of us, so please get comfortable. Hopefully I can help out here.
Shaun moves over, stretches out his legs as much as he can.
There's actually quite a bit of room as the man next to you keeps rather to himself.
All right, then. Let's get into it.
He just looks at you for a moment, almost as though expecting you to ask a question first. But if it becomes obvious Shaun is just waiting for him to say something, he will.
Yeah, Shaun's just waiting for him.
So after just moments of silence, he begins the conversation. So, I have, if you will mind entertaining me here, a question for you.
Yeah.
What happened that night after we left?
You disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
Kadir arrived.
Unfortunate.
Threatened to take us out if we didn't explain what the hell was going on. And he, wasn't particularly happy about the crumpled corpse of the prince. And,
he kind of gives a solemn nod to that.
Well, the others convinced, I was pretty happy to as well, convinced them it was you and Meer.
He nods. He doesn't seem taken aback by that or anything.
You seen his sword? It's big and curvy.
He chuckles a bit. I've seen his sword more times than I can count. And of the prince, what'd you end up doing with her?
Well, Kadir took her. That was the last I saw.
Go ahead and make me a lie check, please.
Yep. Manipulation subterfuge?
Yes, sir. He gets a wit's insight.
Am I going to rouse check for this? I'm already on hunger 2. I definitely will willpower that. That's what I'm...
All right, let's see what you roll first. Oh yeah, you rolled 2 successes, but 1 10 and 1 8 in the hunger. So 4 successes overall, not crit. Okay. 1, 2, 3. It's 4 for him as well, and as we know, ties go to the player. So the sheriff knows where she's at then.
Yeah.
He takes a moment and he actually turns around. You watch as he reaches into his pocket and clearly pulls out a phone. He flips it open. You can hear some typing on it before it clicks shut. He slides it back in. He looks over to you again. I don't want you to be worried. Nothing's going to happen to you. If everything goes as you said, and you truly are looking for another option, we'll say. And after tonight, things are going to be much easier for all of us. How do you think the Camarilla is going to handle a princeless and then a sheriffless city?
I don't think they will. I went to see Arturo the other night, and he was super antsy about me leaving his little shop.
He shakes his head. Arturo's a piece of shit.
Yeah. So, if you were a primogen, what did you actually... what could you do? Arturo's a piece of shit. The prince sucked. So did the sheriff. Did anyone actually take you seriously?
He, at that, turns back around, turns to face you as the chair once again kind of crinkles under his weight. What do you think, Shaun? What do you think Thin Blood Primogen's purpose here in New York was? And he actually says that with a breathy little chuckle.
Was it... You were just some poster boy? Like, what?
Some saw me as a poster boy, I suppose. Not the majority, though, that's for certain. How about a more professional scapegoat? Look at New York, Shaun. How long have you been in the city as you are presently? A Duskborn.
10 years.
And in that 10 years, can you look at me in the eye with any seriousness and tell me that the Camarilla has a firm grasp on New York City?
Well, they threatened to kill me, chucked me with a bunch of weirdos, and then I've only really learned what's going on in the last couple of years. It seems like everyone's just kind of trying to fuck each other, like either literally or figuratively.
Yeah, well, you got a good head on your shoulder, kid. New York is barely holding itself together. The Camarilla had just a grasp to hold on. They've only had the city for nigh on 2 decades. It's nothing. And they still struggle. The existence of kindred outside of their purview and their laws. They like to think they can keep a thumb on them, keep a control on them, but they can barely keep a control on their own problems. So, you put yourself in that position, New York newly won, so to speak, put giant air quotes around that, by the Camarilla, and you need people on your side. There's a brand new cast of kindred. Some see them, or even most see us as a threat, right? The end time, the signs of Gehenna, whatever the fuck that's supposed to be. So instead of killing us off, chasing us off, perhaps, to the other sides of this stupid fucking war, you put an arm around us. Say, we're going to protect you, mama and daddy. All these 6 very simple traditions in your life will be easy. Prove yourself a little bit, do a little bit of work, get a seat as a primogen. The first thin blood primogen, as far as anyone is even aware of, to take that seat of power. True recognition. I thought I had gotten through. Proven that we were valuable not only to the Camarilla, but we weren't a threat. We aren't the signs of Gehenna. Instead, what does the primogen seat get me? It makes me a bigger scapegoat, because now people can point at me, knowing full well I'm not going to die for it. So why not pile on all the transgressions and problems on the thin blood primogen? Make every thin blood that shows up in the city my problem and my fault. Like I can keep up. Nosferatu goes and embraces somebody. They end up a thin blood. Is that the Nosferatu's problem? No. It's mine. A Ventrue decides they want to build a new empire themselves. They begin embracing people. Little do they know, some of them end up as thin bloods. Is that the Ventrue's problem? No. Mine. Now suddenly everybody has an easy finger to point. So I got fucking sick of it. You blame me?
No.
And if I leave, someone's just going to get my place. Other thin blood's going to take that seat, and they may feel that power for a while, feel that immunity. All the gorgeous whispers from Prince Panhard herself of how valuable you are. How welcome you are. Fast forward a few years, and now you're the big problem everybody fucking hates, but they can't do anything about because you're a primogen. You know, I think half of them even fucking like the fact that I'm a primogen, even if they won't outwardly say it. Useful to them. So
He must have gotten some digs in. Come on. So there were these really fancy cigars that were a present for Arturo, and and first thing I did, shook up the box. I don't know what happened to them, but the look on his face said he was not happy. You gotta get your digs in, right? Nothing good ever happened to you?
He shakes his head. I wish I was of your mindset back then. I'm what they call a golden retriever boy. I did everything I thought was right. I wanted to prove myself. I had nothing to fear, at least I didn't think so. So no, I didn't get my digs in. I tried to prove my value to them. They fucked me over, Shaun. So, perhaps, yeah, I'm a little surprised when it seems like every time we've talked, every time we've planned something, you've gone back on your word to go back to them. So I can't figure it out. Is it loyalty to the Camarilla? Or is it loyalty to your coterie, and they just so happen to be Camarilla?
I don't hate them all the time. I mean, if it weren't for them, I wouldn't know that I could do half the stuff I can do. But, like, is that a reason to stay with them forever? When they've stopped being amusing to me, why not move on?
He really just locks his gaze with yours. Lets those words sink in. And why the change of heart, kid?
No change of heart. We've both been kicked around. But I saw what was in the basement of that club. Omnia is not just a fun place to go on a Thursday, is it?
No, it wasn't.
They were scared. Larson, they were scared, and I have not seen that before. I'm still holding on to that a little bit. So how about you tell me what the fuck it is that scares people? They said demon? Like, is that actually what it is? Or is that kind of a folklore thing where it's like, oh, it's ghosts?
I'm gonna be honest with you, Shaun. I have you here. You're not leaving. There's no reason to lie. I don't know. It's not within my purview or my talents. I made the supply arrive. They took care of the rest. From my understanding, it provides them a unique power, whatever it is that they're doing. But perhaps you'll see more of that when we get back to where we're going to be.
Well, whatever end times they've been telling you about, they've avoided it for me. But I do know everyone looks at me and the things I can do as if they'd rather burn me than let me have another chance to try again. So I'm not a stranger to weird new tricks.
He nods. That's the problem with them all. They're all so fucking old. Scared of everything. Everything they don't understand. Do you know how long it took them to understand cell phones?
I know. Oh my god. So the first thing you spoke to Max?
I know Max.
Yeah.
Max.
So he saw me using the cell phone and like turned it into a little ball. And I don't know whether that was because he thought that's how it was used or because he doesn't like it.
He takes a moment and you see him smirk gently.
Use cell phones, I'm guessing, right? Like he takes out a phone. Like,
he looks at the phone, he shakes his head. He's not fond of them, no.
wait, what? Are you using cell phones? Who's he? We talking about Max?
You'll meet him soon enough. No, we're not talking about Max, stupid boy.
Should use cell phones. Really convenient.
Yeah, you're still young. Is there anything else you need to tell me, Shaun? Anything that would be of use?
You've got everything I know about when and where Kadir will be.
As Shaun's thinking, and like maybe even kind of has his head down, Shaun, the driver leans over. He elbows Larson, kind of snapping him out, and he looks and he just leans in, whispers something very quietly, and he looks back and he looks past you out the rear view mirror. Suddenly the car turns. They watch, and without fail, a car turns moments after. They turn again and a few more times. Last chance, Shaun.
Did I tell you that I made a joke about the prince and Kadir threatened to cut my head off?
He looks over to the man you're sitting next to. They nod. He turns to you. I'd get down.
Yep, Shaun ducks.
As soon as you kind of get down, he puts his hand on yours, and you see Larson reach into his pocket, pull out a pistol, lean out the window, and start popping shots. Before long, he kind of leans in, starts kind of racking his gun as the car begins to swerve and turn. You simply watch as Larson pulls out a phone and punches in a message. You're not quite sure what it says before he clicks it shut. The camera cuts. In the club. Do you have the club open tonight?
Oh, for sure.
Okay. In the club, as you're expecting Kadir to show up this evening, and you have yet to hear from Shaun for the night. I imagine the three of you are somewhere milling about in the blood room, fully expecting business for this evening.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any conversation the three of you would like to have?
Okay, Vera, what's the plan?
Ugh. I wish I knew. I imagine that they'll come into the club trying to look like any other mortal.
Where you want me?
You're going to have to get through external security first. Depending on how many, that may not be terribly hard. We should move all of our guests out the back, Duke, do you think you could be convincing?
Of course I can.
When things get bad, it might be wise of us to usher them out,
I suppose that a pistol would probably function just the same as myself, though.
Maybe. But the last thing we need is chaos.
Now, how do we want this to go down? Kadir is gonna take a fall, right? Gonna play dead?
Here's to hoping.
But
Or else we're going to actually lose Shaun.
But, we want to make this look good, so, if a few of them get ripped in half, that's probably a good thing, just not all of them.
If we keep one, we're going to have to really do a number on their brain to make it so that they believe Kadir actually died. It would be nice to send a plant back to Larson to say they took Kadir's head. I don't know.
I can make this a reality.
Yeah,
For Thin Blood, too.
So long as Kadir is here, a little bit of makeup and time with this person, I can convince them anything.
Then maybe we try to leave one alive. We'll let Duke work him up and mess around in his head a little bit.
okay. And if one of them makes a break for it, say, just let him go so we can take word back?
Well, we'd actually have to take Kadir's head for that. Ideally, we get them in the club and we don't let them leave until we're ready.
Okay, got it.
My thought is we bar the doors from the outside.
All right, so you want me next to Kadir? You want me on the door? What you got?
Well, we want to make sure as few of mortals as possible see you.
Yeah, don't worry, I'll wrap up. And nobody's gonna see me right at the start of things.
I imagine they'll try to enter from both the back and the front of the building. They need to see Kadir right away to believe that this is going down. So what if you take the back door?
Fair enough.
Wait in the shadows, they may not see you.
Fair enough. I'll try to take up a position where I can keep an eye on most of the big main room there.
When the fighting starts, and what I imagine will be a show of quite a bit of lead, maybe we can pull the fire alarm and evacuate everyone as quick as possible. Those that want to stick around will. And then at least we have an excuse that there was a fire in the club.
And we only need to leave one of them alive, that right?
Right, Duke?
I believe that that would be accurate and ideal. And as far as post-cover-ups,
How alive does he need to be?
he needs to be able to functionally communicate. Honestly, if you could just incapacitate him, it would be ideal.
So please leave his teeth in his head, Max.
Fair enough. But,
You can break everything else after.
Sure. But like you say, we only need one of them, right?
Just one.
Okay. So we leave one of them alive. Let's hope they leave all of us alive, huh?
If you happen to stumble across whom you may suspect would be the one calling the shots on the floor, that is the one that I think we should probably coax into continued existence, at least for a temporary amount of time.
Fair enough. I'm gonna go get all my gear. And like I said, I'll wrap up, so when I sort of pop into existence, it'll just look like a big guy in a coat.
Sounds good. I'd like to say we're a step ahead of Larson, but we never are.
Considering something smaller, our secondary cleanup once this is all finished, I believe that Luther might make an appearance. It might be a bit slow, as per on normal pace. He has I've taken your advice. I spoke to him, shared some of my past.
Oh.
He wasn't quick to jump on board, but I would be remiss to say that he was, or at least will be interested in potentially working together in the future.
Well, I'm glad to know you didn't scare him off. I know you cared quite a lot for him.
You notice there's some tension in the way that he sort of looks away from that. It's not something that I think that is something that he wants to speak about, if that makes sense.
And Vera would absolutely know that. Yes, maybe letting him know it was a accidental fire in the kitchen or something. The less we have to clean up around guns and gang activity, the better for us.
It will look a little easier a sell if we can make this to be some sort of visible heist. It might even fall under his purveyed view as such.
Oh, I just had a swell idea. I love this. A heist, you say? Now, what were they coming to this club to steal, other than the most expensive cigars in all of the city? Say I box them up and ship them to Arturo instead. I promised him I'd make up for the last round. I ding 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 a little bell.
It takes a while. He'll be there, though.
Yeah. When John arrives, I'll have him remove all the cigars from the humidor upstairs and box them up for Arturo. I like this heist idea, Duke. It's a good cover.
It's simple. Occam's razor and all. The simplest explanation is often the easiest to swallow for most.
And an accidental gunfight doesn't seem quite as obscure.
Agreed.
I did just start buying from the Irish, and I imagine the Italians, as Max pointed out, aren't very happy about it.
It might also be worth noting that since this is a place of which we hold, extreme air quotes here, fine art exhibits from time to time, that they may be attempting to loosen our grip on some artwork. This could potentially even be a bit of an insurance claim.
No, I do love free money.
I gotta admit something to you both. I got a kind of weird feeling about tonight.
Well, do tell.
Yeah, nothing specific. Just, everybody watch yourselves, all right?
Well, it's been a while since I've been in a good fight.
Listen, I'm gonna go get Max Jr. squared away, all right? Don't want him getting hurt.
Yes, maybe getting John out of the club is a good idea after all.
John would arrive at this point, while shuffling his way in. Milady?
John, grab the gold key from my quarters. I would like you to empty the humidor with our most expensive cigars, please. Into maybe a nice box or bag. I've got a location I'd like you to deliver tonight.
Absolutely. Then he slowly turns around and begins to shuffle away.
At least it'll take him a few hours to get that done, and he'll be out of here.
Yeah. He might be done sometime next week.
As long as it makes it to Arturo in an unshaken box.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about unshaken. His palsy is something fierce.
Yes, I know, but don't point it out. He's self-conscious about it.
Hey, I like John fine. He's a good kid. Yeah, I'm gonna get Max Jr. set, like I said.
In Max's room, as mentioned, he's got like a jungle gym essentially for a cat.
Yep.
There's one specific perch which is just over the door, essentially so that Max Jr. could easily jump down and rip to shreds anybody who walks in. And that's where he puts him. It's like,
Yeah, you stay there. Yeah, you stay there, fella. You stay there. And somebody comes in you don't know, you know what to do.
As you walk in, you tell him to stay there. He gives you a purr, and he kind of settles and loafs up on the perch. He actually has a cigarette butt at the very on the perch with him that he's kind of batting back and forth as like a play toy. As you settle Max Jr. in, and the rest of the coterie separates. Just about to separate. Every light in the club goes out. The music suddenly ceases, and the only noise that can be heard is the visible and audible confusion of the club goers. What would be Vera's, Max's, and Duke's first reaction?
I'm gonna obfuscate.
Okay. Are you doing the one that requires a rouse check, or are you just standing still?
No, I'm gonna rouse.
Okay.
Because I want to head upstairs.
Vera?
I'm going to do something that I have not done yet.
And that is?
I just spent all the XP I've gathered this season to purchase my second dot in Auspex, which is Premonition.
Okay.
I think when the lights go out, because it's like a sensory deprivation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Vera says something cheeky like, let the games begin or something of the sort. And she'll do what she does, which is kind of slink away. And quickly find her way. Well, I guess if all the lights are already out, they're already here. So she's going to find a quick moment, and she'll take a deep breath, and I think she's going to see if she can get a premonition of maybe how they're entering or what their plan is, or see if she sees anything at all.
Vera has closed her eyes. And what does Vera look like when she tries, when she induces a premonition? How does she go about doing this? Does she take a seat and get relaxed? Does she simply kind of like close her eyes and let it wash over her?
Yeah, I imagine it's more of the latter. She like I said, it's a sensory deprivation. Like the lights go out, and she has that moment of like, and I imagine it's her premonitions, because it's Vera, are provoked by pain. And so what we can't see in the dark is her like remove a glove and like jam a fingernail deep into the palm of her hand, like drawing vitae and trying to ground herself in a different kind of way, or like force this kind of a thing. And so she takes just a moment to try to see if she can see anything.
And as the nail digs into her palm, and you can feel your thick vitae dripping down, allowing the pain to sear forth, and using that as a triggering mechanism to disappear into your own mind in visions of something more mystical and beyond. That dead silence that surrounds you gives way. Instead, you hear something more muffled. You certainly are in the club, not because you can recognize any sights, you don't really see anything. It's the smell, the feel of the ground beneath your feet. You're familiar with your club inside and out. You know you're in your club. But there's still dead silence. Until for a brief moment, Prince is before you. You see her face and nothing more. You don't even know if you're inside the wall. Simply Prince Panhard's face, and her eyes are open. Her mouth begins to move. Can I get a wit's awareness from you as you try to read her lips as she begins to say something?
I got a 2.
Okay. 2 is enough for what I want you to pick up. It looks like she's saying Shaun. And very quickly, the vision ends. Not because it's the end of the vision there, but suddenly, throughout various parts of your clubs, you hear windows shattering. Multiple windows, glasses shatter, the people above, the kind, begin to scream. And as Max is upstairs, making his way up there quietly to take his place, Max, what you see is not thin bloods coming through the windows, gangs coming through the windows. You see people with rappel ropes, well-geared, moving like a well-practiced military unit, filing through the openings the best they can. And with guns pressed to their chest, raised up, you see them begin to very quickly sweep through the club. We hard cut back to the car. Gunshots have gone off a few times, Shaun. And only after about 30 seconds or so, you hear Larson say, "All right, you can lift your fucking head up."
You get them?
Why were people following you?
Well, in mortal peril, I had a moment to think. The only other person I've pissed off is someone from the Italian mob. I don't know if they got anything around here. I know they're at the docks.
So with 4 successes, you see him watching you very intently, the gun very lazily still in his hand, though not pointed directly at you, just kind of loose and pointing down south of the equator, so to speak. And after you say and blame it on the mob, takes a moment, really kind of grills you, like looks you in the eye, desperate for any tell, any giveaway that what you're saying is not true, a reason to end this charade now. And he then sighs, places the gun back by his side, looks back to you. Not like it fucking matters anyway. Shit's in motion. It's already done.
Cool. What's already done?
The attack.
Oh, cool. You got Kadir?
I'll know in a little while.
Okay. Well, either way, I get to see some more Thin Bloods, right?
In time, when we get there. And I'm not going to lie, Shaun. Got me a little nervous.
Me too. What were you thinking?
That you lied to me again. I can't take another lie, Shaun. Not from you. You've promised, but you're not the only one. You're expendable. Less expendable than the rest, but still expendable.
Yeah. I've had that pretty well drilled into me by now. You expendable?
At the end of the day, aren't we all? How well equipped is your coterie at home?
I think they got a few basic guns. They have a cat. And I mean the doors are pretty heavy.
He lets that sit before he just turns, faces the road. Doesn't say anything else. Shaun let it go and go quiet himself.
Shaun is gonna like leave it a moment and then just say, "So you're gonna burn down the Succubus Club?" If
needed.
you would have told me that, I've got like a stash under my mattress. Like if there's anyone there, there's a few things that I'd people rather not see.
You still think this is some fucking joke, Shaun?
Trying to lighten the mood. It's not a joke. You're gonna burn down the Succubus Club.
I'm gonna kill all your friends first.
Price moving on, right?
When everything goes well. I don't know if I can trust you anymore, Shaun. You have a tell. Anyone ever tell you that? When you can't keep a straight face and you start telling jokes. I start no longer believing you. You get nervous. When put under a light, you get nervous. You know what you do? You try to break the tension, deviate. So you start saying nonchalant shit. So no, I don't really trust you anymore right now, Shaun. Not a single time in this entire interaction have you seemed to take this fully seriously. I have called down the wrath of hell on your coterie, with little fanfare as to what happens to the rest of that city block after. You think I was going to send my thin bloods after them after the past few times we've crossed paths, Shaun? No. I gave the Inquisition a little hint. Let them take care of the rest. So tell me, do you think they're going to be okay? Or did you think I was going to send my own boys to take care of it? Or do you need to make a joke, Shaun? Lighten the mood. Or are you taking this seriously yet? I got you out of there. I cared enough about you to get you the fuck out of there.
Well, if you're right, then I've got nothing to go back to.
Larson lets it sit. When you're ready to take this seriously, Shaun, let me know. Vera, Max, Duke, the windows have shattered. Do we have a skylight in this club? Is there like a moonlight, like that leads out to the top?
I mean, technically it's a theater, so they usually wouldn't. But I imagine that alterations have been made because it's not really that kind of a theater anymore. So
you make that call.
They got to drop down 3 stories.
Yeah,
it's quite a rappel.
Yeah, you have a couple people rappelling and a few people coming through some windows.
Yeah, I was trying to think what windows they'd have because there are windows into Vera's room, but they're all like blacked out.
Mm-hmm.
There might be some on the second story where like the cigar bar is now.
Yeah, I imagine there's a couple on the first floor, a couple on the second floor, maybe one on the third floor, and a skylight is kind of where I thought. So you're looking at a couple people entering on a total that Max can see since he's the one up there at the very moment. Just a quick look. Can I get a wits awareness from Max as the crowd panics and he's attempting to get a quick count on what's happening here? Oh, damn. 4 successes. So as Max quickly looks around, you can count very quickly 4. 2 coming in from the roof and 2 coming in from the front door. The window that would have busted would have been somewhere in the back that you can't see past the sea of people. However, the front door, they're having people get down as they're shouting, get down, as they're walking in kind of side by side with their rifles up. And then a couple people rappelling down from the busted ceiling light that are coming down to the dance floor.
Okay, so these 2 that are coming down from the roof, how high up are they?
They're about probably like 50 feet up right now. The closest to you will be the ones coming in through the front door. They're maybe 20 feet from where you're as you're coming up the back end. They're kind of dead ahead across the dance floor since you're coming up from the basement, over by the double doors that are swinging in. As you look out towards the double doors, you can actually see 2 security guards on the ground, just dead, like outside.
Okay. Do I see any of these guys off? They're always in a group, yeah?
There's 2 and 2, so you have 2 groups of 2 in the current moment. 2 in the front door, 2 coming down from the window.
Okay. I'm gonna wait until these ones that are dropping down from the ceiling are about 30 feet off the ground.
Okay.
At which point, I can leap up using Soaring Leap and knock them both off the ropes.
Okay, that'll definitely happen this round then, because on their round, they're going to be coming down. So we'll say when they get down, you get to make your leap. That'll be what you do. We'll get to that. Vera, what about yourself?
Okay.
As you just saw some vision, perhaps not exactly what Vera was hoping for, but something kind of weird.
But that's okay. The prince's eyes are open, and that's a whole other new level of, or at least she saw the prince's eyes open.
You saw the prince's eyes open, yeah.
Okay. I'm downstairs, or I'm on the first floor?
First floor. I'll leave it up to you. Your call. Where would you have done the vision? Would you have done it the vision
You
downstairs?
said they're repelling in.
There, 2 of them are repelling. They busted in from the roof.
All right. The second floor is like a mezzanine of a theater, right? Which means they're gonna have to like drop in from the open space of the second down.
They're gonna have to go past the second floor, yeah.
They're using ropes, am I correct?
Rappel ropes, yeah.
Rappel ropes. Vera pulls 2 knives, and she is because she doesn't use guns.
Okay.
She's gonna sling one and cut their ropes.
As the camera cuts to Vera, now knowing what Max is going to do on his round, Vera quickly kind of stops. The power cuts. She has a momentary vision. As she opens her eyes, the world around her looks and sounds different. Not something unfamiliar with, but Vera has heightened senses. And through that, as she focuses and concentrates her kindred-like external senses, every shuffle is heard. Every move, every scream, every heavy breath within a certain radius Vera can pick up on. But more importantly, as your pupils dilate widely, you can see into the dark without taking a penalty for being able to see in the dark. And you too, as you make your way up the stairs, can see 2 coming in through the front door. Now, since you can see rather well in the dark, clearly they have some sort of vision on. And the 2 coming in from the ceiling are also coming in rather geared. You can make out that they are not carrying simply just pistols, but some sort of automatic or semi-automatic weapon.
Yeah. Yes, immediately, now that Vera can see in this darkness, will sling one of her knives to cut their rope so they take the 2-story fall instead.
Okay, fantastic. So we'll get to that. And then finally, Duke, what are you going to do?
I have a question. I have an ability. It's a merit. It's called Bloodhound. I can sense resonance in humans.
Mm-hmm.
Could I functionally utilize this as an opportunity to track that heightened blood if they're moving, especially if they're moving like a unit? Is that a thing that I can do?
What do you mean heightened blood specifically? Like,
So,
what are you
like,
looking...
There's like the common resting rate of like a normal person. You've got your partying person, but if this is like a SWAT group, you know,
Yeah.
they're probably blood's probably pumping is my guess, and it allows me to sense their blood without even tasting it. I'd like to go back through the kitchen area, sort of like leaning into. I mean, I imagine like this is a place that Duke is stalked. It's a comfort ground, and if they're gonna move into his home, he's gonna utilize that.
Absolutely.
My goal is to get to them, and I want to pry one away from the group and dominate him.
Okay. Then Duke's turn will be spent then walking from where he's at over to the kitchen. We'll open first as Vera strides up the stairs, quickly sliding her hand down and picking up, what do you throw? So, like little knives, as you said, like little
Yeah, they
sharp
would be,
knives?
I imagine they'd be actual throwing knives, something
Throwing
really
knife.
thin that she can hide in the leather and things, you know.
And as Vera kind of strides up the stairs extraordinarily elegantly, quickly pulling a throwing knife from her boot as she gets to the very top, casing the scenario instantly, she sees the threats coming in through the front and the top, and without a second thought, she looks up. Between her index and her middle finger, she brings it back, and with a very swift motion that only eyes of a kindred could catch, the arm is thrown out just, and as the throwing knife slips between her fingers and cruises through the air, it very seamlessly and cleanly severs the rope on one of them, and he immediately, and with some surprise and a quick starts to plummet downward. Now, this will allow Max, you can make your attack on this guy now as he's plummeting, or you can continue with your idea of waiting for the other guy to come down and try to hit him as he comes down. Would you like to adjust your targets?
Well, my initial idea was I was going to jump up and paste one of them and try to knock him into the other one, but looks like Vera's taking care of that problem, so I'm going to wait for the guy who's probably not going to take a lot of damage by smashing into the floor.
And that's exactly what happens. And before you, maybe 3 or 4 feet in front of you, you watch this man careens down 2 stories and lands with a deafening crack and thud. You're not sure if the floor ended up actually taking any damage. If anything, it was probably scratched up a bit.
Yeah, I think I'm going to get this guy that's less likely to have the wind knocked out of him.
Okay, so you get the guy coming down from the roof. Cool. So you're going to soaring leap up to him. And as you launch from the ground, you're going to make the same. You made the roll already, which is fine.
Yeah.
And you plan on like grabbing onto him and pulling him down, or you just plan on like punching him?
I just jump up in the air and punch him as hard as I can. So that is 6 successes, and that is, of course, all aggravated damage because I think this guy's mortal.
He is mortal. Congratulations. Yes, he is. And as you arise, the viewer can't even see as you're invisible from this point on, but you come into visibility as soon as the fist collides with his chest. And you can even feel under the body armor that's very clearly there. You can still feel bones crack underneath as your fist kind of just pushes through it. And his body kind of flies on this rappel rope, and as he swings wildly, he crashes into a nearby light as the glass itself shatters and spills onto the floor about 20 or 30 feet below him. You hear him grunt heavily, and he is able to still maintain a very loose grip, though. The gun kind of loses he loses the hard grip. His left hand comes off the barrel of the gun, but his right hand is able to hold on to the actual grip and keeping it close. But he moans and is now swinging kind of wildly a little bit, and the rope itself is starting to go very quickly down as he's not controlling his buoy very well, and he's careening toward the floor.
Okay, as I complete the arc of my leap, I'm going to try
and
to
you land on the ground.
Basically roll undercover, get behind something solid.
From here, I'll just say you can easily and very quickly get half cover from where you land, jumping into a nearby kind of a nearby bar area that you can jump down behind, covering most of yourself. From there, we would see Duke make his way to the kitchen, and Duke, as you peer open, there you see 2 white flashlights beaming around in the darkness of the kitchen. It'll take you a round to have gotten there. The last two, they take their turn to get in, but the two at the front door, as they peer in, they very quickly see Max. They take a few pot shots while he's diving for cover, not hitting him, but they are going to take shots at him, but they're going to take a penalty because you are in cover. Max, as you kind of land on the ground, you hear the rapid pops of semi-automatic weapons behind you as the bullets start kind of hitting all around you, and you quickly dive into cover. They're going to take a couple shots at you, but again, you're in cover. And you are able to roll me Dex Athletics, I believe, is the defense roll automatically. Yeah, as the guns kind of just empty themselves kind of in your general direction, only one of them is actually going to nick you with one bullet after all your defenses are taken, the penalties they take. You see bottles just in classic fashion exploding as they're firing around. Max and Vera, you would, can I get a wits awareness from you? Max, you do, and I'm sorry, Duke and Vera, wits awareness. Max, you don't need a wits awareness. As you get clipped with one bullet and it hits you, you please take 1 aggravated damage.
Oh, I am wearing a flak jacket.
I think that gives you an extra defense. Let me look.
It negates 1, I believe. I got a 1.
If it negates 1, then you would take it. You still wouldn't need to make a roll.
You have 4 successes.
Okay.
And also, I have a level of fortitude, if that matters.
Only if you instigated a power that would use it. But if you have a flak jacket, then that last round, that last 1 damage would be absorbed. The 1 bullet that hit you hit the flak jacket. But as you look down, and Duke, you would notice as the bullets are starting to fly, and you take a quick look over, you see a puff of like orange fire that just kind of quickly extinguishes as it hits your flak jacket. And Duke, you would see as the balls are exploding, occasionally little puffs of what look to be flame and a smoke that quickly follows. All that is in Vera, and to everybody here, as the bullets are flying, the muzzle flash and the little puffs of orange beyond the what flashlights they had are the only sources of light beyond the outside, which is not really pouring in all that well. Next round. What do each of you characters? What is your next character's course of action on this?
There's 2 men in like a different space. You said that's the where Duke is at.
So yeah, there's 2 coming from the back that Duke can see. The 2 of you are not aware of. There are now 4 on the main floor. 1 from you severing, and they collided with the ground. 2 from coming in the door, and the other one from Max just punching him so hard he loses grip on his rappel and just goes all the way down to the main floor and collides, having taken a bunch of damage in the process.
Whichever one is next up, like nearest Vera, she's going to hold on to that fleetness. I think she's actually going to enter, because you said they have like rifles of some kind or automatic
some sort of
weapons.
Semi-automatic, yeah.
Do they take I'm going to guess they take some kind of penalty if I'm in close range of them. So Vera's going to step in, right? Because like she doesn't have a gun. So she is going to, she's going to step in and go into melee combat with them using knives.
Okay. So you're going to step to the closest one. The closest one would be to Vera, where you're coming up. The closest 2 are going to be the 2 that are kind of on the ground. 1 seriously injured from Max, and the one that you severed and slid down.
I'll take the one that's seriously. I'm guessing he has like a broken leg. Like, how is he?
Yeah,
injured,
he would be. It's hard to tell that he's injured, other than the fact that you saw him get fucking nailed by Max, and he just kind of like slid all the way down. All of his wounds are internal.
The one whose rope was cut, is he injured? As well?
It's hard to tell from him. He likely would have taken a little bit of damage, but not as much as if Max had.
Well, he's already down, so he's a dead man as is. So I'll step up to him since he's at a disadvantage and try to finish him off, and then use his body as a shield.
How exactly are you going?
Yes, it is melee combat, so she'll have a knife in hand. I imagine she has knives hidden everywhere, and you just don't ever see them. So she's just pulling them from like under her hat, out of a boot, right, out of her glove. And so she walks over to this guy who's prone on the ground. And depending on how injured he is, and if she's not going to take penalties, she'll just slit his throat. If not, then she's just going to stab him.
You might even go to try and slit his throat as you approach him. He's clearly still alive, and as you kind of stand over him, lording over him, and going down with the dagger to just finish the job, he quickly brings his arms up and he tries to tuck and roll. And while he doesn't do a fantastic job, surprised that you got up to him so quickly and you moved to still kind of stunned that his rope got cut. As he tucks and rolls, you still gouge him very deeply on his collarbone, just where some of the armor isn't necessarily protecting as well, and you can actually feel the warmth of the blood near your fingertips spilling from his skin as you clearly do a good amount of damage somewhere by jamming the knife into his shoulder. He kind of grunts and groans, but unlike a lot of the others that you've fought and killed in the past, there's not a lot of anguish or sadness or anger. It's more of a reactionary like, but they continue as he tries to pull himself up at this point. That's what you'll do on your turn. What about the other two, Max and Duke? We'll go to Max first. As Max, as you're standing over, like you kind of land and you turn around and you see this guy sliding down to the ground and he lands with a heavy thud. You very quickly see Vera striding up to the other one, looking to finish him off, getting into a quick scuffle. Though a scuffle might not be the appropriate word, as he's more or less trying to just defend himself and get away.
So this was the guy that just whose rope she cut, yeah?
Yep, she's tried to stab the one whose rope she cut. The guy that you punch is on the ground, groaning and grasping himself, but pushing himself back up for more.
Well, I figure I can close the distance to him with the soaring leap pretty easy.
Very easily.
Yeah. So that's what I do, and then I paste him again.
Just going for a full-on punch. He's actually going to get a defense roll this time around, luckily, but we see Max kind of just turn around very kind of just with a lot of power behind his steps. And as he just looks at the one that he knocked down, still seeing his breathing, a very quick bend of the knees before he launches off the ground. You see him soar a solid like 4 or 5 feet or across the floor, landing just above his head. And he kind of just pulls his fist up. Please make your horrifying roll, and I'm going to hopefully maybe not die. As you kind of like, we watch as Max just leaps those 4 feet and lands above his head, and you watch as his fist kind of just, his hand balls into a fist, the bones cracking again, already, kind of having cracked them from punching him in the gut. And as this soldier quickly pulls his rifle up and tries to aim it directly up and unleash a few bullets, Max gets ahead of him before he can do such a thing.
Yeah, I just sort of grabbed the barrel of the gun and moved it aside and used that advice I gave Shaun earlier as I aimed for the bridge of his nose and hopefully put my fist out through the back of his head.
We see Max grab the barrel of the gun and quickly, with one swift motion, throw it. The gun goes soaring across the room and collides with a distant wall, never touching the ground before then. And as he reaches down, you quickly grab the mask that he's wearing that has like the night vision goggles, and as you rip it up with one hand, the other hand comes colliding down to the bridge of the nose. And with a very definitive crack, and followed by an oozy gush on both sides, Vera, your dance floor is suddenly splattered with a Rorschach symbol of blood, now oozing from both sides of the head. And as you pull the fist up, a tooth is still stuck between your knuckles, and you whip the tooth off. It clanks up against the hardwood ground and slides across. The other soldier, only a few feet away from him, quickly looks over, but too busy with a very particular lethal woman in his face himself. That leaves the oh, go ahead.
And it basically, again, I'm going to try to duck under some cover as well, especially now that I know these guys got some, looks like some Dragon's Breath rounds or incendiary bullets, who knows.
Yep. I am going to, let me see, Vera, I just want to see your rolls, because I actually did the first round of combat incorrectly. They wouldn't make a defense roll, just do combative fighting rolls against you. However, so he's gonna roll against your roll, but you're still already did the damage. I'm not taking the damage away.
You mean the first time
like when you jumped on and to stab him? Oh no, the second time.
Yes.
Yeah,
it would have been the second roll, which I rolled a 4 on.
Yeah. You're not going to lose. You already did the damage. I'm not undoing the damage. I'm simply going to use that as the defense roll that he's rolling against to try.
Gotcha. Okay, I see.
Because he's moving into melee now, because you jumped down with a melee, and he's got a gun in his hand, so he's going to try and fire shots off, but at a penalty.
That was the goal.
He's not going to have a lot to roll here, but he's going to try and pop some shots off.
And I'll get a defense roll against that. Correct?
No, the way it works is your attack roll kind of counts as your defense roll, and you negate.
Got it.
You're technically supposed to negate your dice against each other, but I didn't do that the first round, which was my mistake. But it doesn't matter, because he didn't exceed the number of successes you rolled, so as you kind of jam it in and he trying to ducks and rolls, he fires off a couple quick defensive shots, but they just whiz by you completely hitting wall, and you think you heard a mirror or something shatter behind you as well. Which leads us last to Duke. Duke, as you're peering through the door, you see 2 flashlights making their way toward the door you're at now.
I know that there's a left and a right the moment that you walk out to enter into the hall. So
Yes,
I'm going to hang to the right where the door swings open. And as the men turn, I'm going to meet the first one eye to eye, pretty much nose to nose, and lock gaze with him. And I'm going to immediately hit him with a mesmerize.
Okay,
and for your information, I took rationalize as a level 4 discipline.
Nice.
Okay, so for those who are not familiar or who will listen, Please explain what a level 4 discipline of rationalize does for you.
My victims now believe that anything that they do under the influence of dominate is a result of their own free will, and they will defend those actions however absurd it might sound. Its duration is indefinite.
I want to say the only thing it can't do is put them in life-threatening danger until terminal decree, which is level 5, correct?
If they can beat my mesmerize.
Rationalize will still let you put them in mortal danger?
They're already in mortal danger. Nothing's going to change there.
Sure.
At this point,
But if
the
you say
shit
turn around and
foundation
fight
of
your
understanding.
friend, that'll be
Or take your own life. There is rules against
Oh
that.
yeah.
Yeah.
They do have that. It's intelligence plus resolve versus my manipulation dominate.
So a total of 7, 8, 9 successes
9
total?
successes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you lock eyes with the first guy as they kind of as the door swings open. One walks out, turns right. The other walks out and turns left as they're going to kind of separate down the hallway. As soon as the second one steps out and turns left, he's met with your face as the flashlight. And as he's about to pull the trigger, as a blinding white light is kind of just in your face, you say exactly?
Your men coming through the door have opened fire on the men coming through the skylight. They said no loose ends and are aiming to take you out next. They turned on you. You now know. Will you wait for them to shoot you next?
There is no words that come out of his mouth as he stares blankly at you for the 3 seconds that the round takes. The other man turns very quickly as he hears a voice behind him, and he ties as he looks over and has a flashlight. You can see the flashlight whip around. You are technically going to be his penalty counts as basically him in cover. If he fails by a certain degree, he actually pops his friend. You're only going to take a single shot. So he passes through, a couple bullets hit by, but as it collides with your shoulder, a burning sensation runs through your skin as you take a single aggravated point of damage as one of the rogue bullets kind of pops, and you watch as the flashlight behind him tactically starts moving backward, and the flashlight gets a little smaller and a little smaller. The man you mesmerized is, at this point, as the bullets fly, quickly kind of like blinks a few times and turns to walk past you, ignoring you entirely. That was the one you mesmerized. He's walking past you.
I'm gonna utilize that to whip into the kitchen and pull the doors.
Okay, and so as he walks by, Duke kind of slides in the kitchen door and pulls the door shut, like you said. The scene cuts. The sounds of car and tires rumbling continue as New York City becomes smaller and smaller behind you. You're now pulling into the suburban area of New York as New York City you can now see fully out. Having the first time in probably years since you've been this far out of the city itself. You are reminded just how enormous New York City is. Through your left, all the way to the right in front of you, and all the way to your right, is nothing but concrete jungle that surrounds you. It's been quiet for a few minutes. Would Shaun stay quiet the entire ride?
Shaun just got called out.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't think so.
Okay. The silence lingers uncomfortably for a while. The one behind the man seated next to you occasionally looks your way, gives you a glance. He gives you a glance every so often, merely maybe interest or passing curiosity in a boring car ride, but he does look your way every so often. And after a few more minutes of silence, Larson will break it. He won't turn to face you this time. He won't lean on his chair. He simply gives his gaze straight forward. Shaun, I'm willing to help you out here. I don't want you to die. No interest in losing another of our kind, whether I see you again or not. I know you can walk in the daylight, much like myself. I'll give you one opportunity. I'll let you leave. I'll drop you off at an airport or a train station. I'll buy you a ticket. Wherever you want to go, and I will see you off. Forget about all this. He gestures to the two people in the car. They ain't gonna say shit. You can get the fuck away from all this. Once you're there, once we've arrived, there's no going back. So if this is some large ruse to get your revenge, now's the time to tap out. He actually kind of taps the shoulder of the person driving. He puts on his blinker. The car slows to a roll, and they pull off on the breakdown lane. At this point, Larson does turn around. I offer you this honestly and genuinely.
You play a lot of games. You're gonna lose. I don't think I've ever been more serious about getting my revenge.
He lets that sit. So you want to go through.
It's a tempting offer. But no. We've got to turn the city upside down.
The car immediately starts to roll forward again. The doors relock. They pull back into traffic and merge. And the continued driving, creating distance between you and New York, moves forward.
And hey, I didn't make a joke. Or does that count?
He doesn't say anything to that. Can I ask you what you hope to get out of this?
I don't know if it's possible. But I've had it described to me as well how I could put a gun to the head of any of the three that I live with, pull the trigger, they'll be fine. I fall over, scrape my knee, that shit lasts for weeks. And then he pulls his shirt across, and this shit isn't going away either. This burn mark here, if nothing else, I want to get rid of this. Because this, if this disappears, so do the people that made it. He turns to the guy he's sitting next to like, do you have one? Wait, Larson, do you have one?
He takes a moment, and then he will, kind of biting his tongue, will pull up the left side of his shirt over by his hip, and you can actually see a brand of the Camarilla logo.
Damn. He looks to the guy sat next to him.
Larson like answers your question for you by saying he's not a thin blood, so no.
Oh. Shaun sniffs him. What is he?
Larson lets that hang. Not my question to answer. To your question, my apologies. Yes. I know someone that can get rid of that for you.
Cool.
He's a good man, Shaun. But he is ruthless.
Okay. Now I promise this is not a joke. Does he have a sense of humor? Because the last time that I fucked around, every time I fuck around, I get threatened. Does he know the difference between a joke and real life?
It depends. Have you learned the appropriate time to tell a joke? He's an easygoing individual. Just don't give him a reason to not be.
Good news.
The car pulls away again. We cut back to the club. Max is standing over the bloodied stump of a neck that once belonged to a military, and Vera stands with knife deep in the shoulder of another who groaned and bleeds openly. Duke stands with a bodyguard nearby. And another is opening fire on him as Duke dips into the kitchen. what are everybody's actions this round? Vera, we'll start with you. Continue
there
fighting this guy
is-
on the ground?
Yes, if he's not dead. Well, yes, if he's not dead, I would like that very much.
Yep, absolutely. He's going to be moving from gun. He's going to be dropping his gun and trying to move into melee as well. We'll see how it goes. I have a feeling he's probably not as skilled as you, but we'll see.
You're darn tootin' he's not.
Yeah. And then, Mark, what is your character going to do? You have the two people at the door who still are taking shots, and then the one that Vera's taking care of. So 3 total in the main area.
Okay, now I've dived back in undercover, I assume behind a bar or something.
Yep, you went like behind a bar or some sort of table that you knocked over.
That means they don't have eyes on me.
As far as you can tell.
I'm gonna obfuscate.
Okay, rouse check, please.
You bet.
Vera will rouse as well for this melee combat, by the way.
That puts
She
you
failed.
at 3 hunger now.
Yeah, somebody's getting et tonight.
Yep. How about Max also gets a little hungry? What does that put you at, Max?
Only up to 2 because, of course, I always make sure to have a juice box with me.
Okay, and then we'll get to that in a minute before we have any rolls. And Duke, what is your plan in your turn?
I'm going to do a lot of the same thing. I'm pretty much going to do a lot of the same thing. I walk into that kitchen, pull that door, and immediately grab a knife off the counter. It is the kitchen after all.
A familiar tool. As we see Duke. Does Duke go for any particular kind of knife? Is he picky about his weapon that he'd like to use?
Something nimble, alive, thin blade.
Do you want like a butcher's knife? Like, are you looking for like a butcher's knife?
Probably a meat cutting knife.
Meat cutter, okay, like a meat cleaver. All right. So we see Duke as he dips into the kitchen very quickly as the camera pans and watches as he scoops up a meat cleaver. The camera pulls out of the kitchen, seeing one of the soldiers making its way towards the door, but still the camera tracks around the wall and back into the main room, where we catch Max just behind a table as he kind of ducks down, concentrates for a moment, he ripples out of existence, and then the camera snaps to the left, coming into focus with Vera, which is the first round that we will start with. He's going to make an attack roll versus your attack roll. I have a feeling he's not going to do as well as you, but we will see. He's going to take a penalty because he's actually, what you see him do as you go down to take a stab, you watch as he kind of freely drops his gun as it just kind of locks to the side, and he pulls from his pant leg a steel capped at the very base of it, a steel capped stake as he goes to just fucking go for your chest and just end this as fast as he can. He's going to take a penalty of -3 on top of the penalty that he's taking for being on prone. He needs to roll some crits with this. That'd be nice to beat 8.
All he has to do is ask me to step on him.
Nope, he's not going to beat it. So 1, 2, 3, he takes away from your 8 successes. You're still going to do 5 damage to this guy as you sink even further. And you've already done, I apologize, you did 4 on top of that?
4 last time plus the... Yeah.
So as Vera kind of stands over him and he quickly pulls a stake and he just goes for kind of a wild shot at your chest, and maybe even surprisingly, he's not that inaccurate even under the situations and the panic that he's in, but you still see it coming as you have the advantage, and with a quick step to your right and a quick spin, you're able to reposition yourself from over his chest to above his head, and as you lean down, you simply hook the knife into his jugular, and with a nick, you just pop it, and you watch as a couple spurts happen as he quickly tries to apply pressure, but the life in his eyes dies as his pupils contract, and the grip he has on his jugular quickly loosens, and his bloody hand just slides across his chest. And
As he dies, Vera just says, "Oops."
And Max, you can hear that gentle little oops as you stand up now, completely invisible. Now, your only 2 people you can see are the 2 that are coming through the main door, since the 2 on the ground are now dead. They have their rifles trained on Vera, so they're going to be popping shots at Vera, which means they don't see you, which means whoever you attack is going to be against a 1 defense. Meanwhile, they're going to have kind of open season on popping Vera a little bit here, but it's fine.
My hope was to kind of
gunfire.
use his... I was about to say, my hope was to kind of use his body.
We'll give you
but-
partial cover with that then.
Yeah,
You'll have a
I was about to
penalty of
say, you
partial.
know.
Totally fine. I think that works really great.
There's still the dominated guy. That's,
Yep,
that's-
he's going to kind of operate around on your turn, where he'll pop shots after. But we'll do this first. So Max, as you stand up invisible, again, you see the 2 at the front door. Their sights are completely trained on Vera. You know they're going to be popping shots. Do you just kind of, do you soaring leap? What do we see Max do?
Yeah, I'm not going to sort of jump in front of their fire. I'm going to go off over to the side a little bit. But I should be able to, I can go, I can do like 45, 50 feet in a,
All right, so you're going to soaring leap behind one of them or behind the two of them since they're kind of walking shoulder to shoulder?
Yeah, behind both of them, and
Okay.
pretty close. And
So what you can do, keep in mind rules V5. You can target one and do your entire dice pool on one. Or you can split your die pool and hit both. And you can split it as you choose. You could do 50-50, you could do 2 on one, 6 on another. It's entirely up to you.
nah, I'm gonna do it all on one guy.
It works for me. this poor fucking bastard.
And the move I'm doing is basically just sort of reaching around, twisting his head right around backwards.
Absolutely clean.
That's what I'm gonna aim for anyway.
Well, we'll
So
see what you
that'll
roll.
be- Now I'm roused.
So this guy, I will make that be so that the only one guy is going to get shots on Vera, and he's going to take a penalty for a partial cover on Vera, unless this guy doesn't die, which I'm just assuming he's going to, but we'll see.
Yeah, 9. In my opinion, 9 ought to be enough to take out this guy, right?
Little do you know, he has 10 health. No, no, these guys, they're beefy compared to others, but yeah, they don't have 9 health.
Yeah.
So if you leave it at that, you're getting him by surprise because you were able to get away, go invisible, get behind him. As your hands kind of hit his neck and you quickly spin Vera, as 2 flashlights are leveling in your direction, one immediately gets dropped. And standing behind him as the light drops, you can see his head has completely spun around. You only see the back of his head as Max is staring in the eyes of a man who is not put together properly. The body goes immediately limp with a few twitches as it crumples by your feet.
Oh, I'm not gonna let it crumple. I'm holding it up in front of me, so it's
Sure.
gonna be my meat shield if this guy turns around.
That's fantastic. So the last guy, without having an opportunity to realize what's happening next to him as quickly as it's happening, as all this is happening at once, he quickly pulls the trigger and pops some shots on Vera. Let me make sure I'm rolling correctly. Okay. He's going to take a minus. Ooh, I might actually fuck Vera up a little bit here. Let's see. So you were going to roll me your, was it Dex Athletics?
Dex Athletics. And I am gonna be brave here, y'all, and rouse one more time because I can do this once per turn.
Okay.
I get a spare rouse for fleetness. Oh, praise be, I did not get hungrier. So that's gonna add my celerity rating to this roll. This is probably the only time in the combat I'm gonna get to do
Okay.
it, though. Dexterity, submit, +2 there. So I got a 4. 4.
I mean, it's 4 and 4, so you negate the damage that is done because he rolled 4 successes. So as he pops shots, a couple hit the body as you kind of toss the body to the side and kind of move out of the way as ducking behind a couple of tables here and there and kicking a couple of chairs out the way as he just tries to follow you with his gun. And a few things are being popped. You can see a couple of bursts of flame in the process, which leads us to the back room. Duke, are you hiding, waiting for him with the meat cleaver in your hand, or do you kind of just stand there waiting to go one-on-one?
I'm standing to go there one-on-one. The moment that I can sort of lock eyes with him. And for the sake of clarity, I don't think I'd go for a cleaver. I'm going for probably closer to a fillet knife. Something that's going to get through lighter flesh easily.
Okay, absolutely. So as the soldier, the camera hangs on the outside of the kitchen, we see the military or Second Inquisition member making his way down the hallway, back up against the wall. But the camera still tracks back, and it catches the one as it continues to peer around the corner with his gun up. As he stands there and kind of scans around, seeing only a singular member of his squad standing at the front door. You will, Duke, hear shots being fired. Vera and Max will also, of course, hear shots being fired.
I do imagine we probably hear Vera under her breath say Duke's name, knowing that he's alone in that room without any help.
Sure. Shots get popped. Duke can't see what exactly is happening, whether they're from the person you just commanded or someone else entirely unaware. But Vera and Max are perhaps a little surprised as shots are popped, and you see the one that's standing by the doorway that just tried to take shots and take Vera out completely. Actually quickly grasps his left leg as a bullet kind of flies into it and explodes with a bit of fire, doing a decent amount of damage to him at that particular point. Duke, as you stand kind of waiting with the fillet knife nearby the door, it creaks open ever so slightly. And what actually ends up happening is you hear a tink, tink, tink before the door slides shut again. Wits awareness.
Can I react?
Yes, but wits awareness to at least see what roll was rolled in.
Sure.
You will have heard it. You will not have heard the tink, tink, tink. You heard that.
4 successes.
You see it tube-like grenade style. It's not like a frag grenade. It doesn't look like a frag grenade. It looks like a tubed grenade that's rolling on the ground.
Yeah. The moment I'm sort of guessing that's what it was. The moment that I hear that, I move to the corner where the swinging kitchen doors are, and as it's kind of like trying to center itself back again, reach to the top of it and tuck myself in the corner using the door as cover.
Okay.
Pulling like the door with me.
We see Duke grab the door and quickly kind of trying to block his eyes, ready for a loud explosion or perhaps a ringing of ears that to quickly follow. Instead, however, what you hear is while you hear a loud pop, it's very quickly followed by... And as Duke is peering around the corner, you very quickly realize it wasn't a flashbang, but in fact, a smoke grenade. And the entire back room is starting to fill with smoke. You would have an action. He does not enter the door. The kitchen is simply filling with smoke that is very hard to see through.
I wait.
Okay, we'll go to the next round. Vera and Max, there's a single target here. Do the both of you team up for this particular attack and fight as a group and combine your pools?
Yeah, he's right beside me, so I'm definitely gonna hit him.
I think Vera would wait. I mean, her attention is drawn to Duke, right? She heard the like fire.
Yeah, as
and, like,
Vera's attention is drawn to the kitchen, you actually see another soldier with a flashlight rounding the corner where the shots would have come from.
Perfect. Okay.
If Max sees Vera look over, he just sort of goes, "I got this."
Yeah, she's gonna aim for the one that's going for Duke, and we'll just like lob a knife across the space.
I need you to make me an attack roll versus his defense, and Max an attack roll as well, versus now that you're not invisible, this guy gets an attempt at not dying immediately.
Oh, I'm gonna rouse. Here we go. Does Vera get to hunger? 4! It happened. It was bound to. It's fine. Somebody is gonna pay.
Okay, the defense.
You know what
versus
I'm
Max,
rousing
gonna-
to? I'm also gonna rouse.
Okay. God damn it!
Can I
dude.
add that 10
You
to that
add
other
another
10?
crit.
A double crit, yo!
So that is that what, 12, 14 successes? How many is that?
Damn, it doesn't
It's a
fucking
lot.
matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Okay,
It
so
doesn't matter.
if
It's
it
not what
doesn't
you want me to
matter,
do.
yeah. So basically, as Max just like looks at Vera and goes, "I got this," and then he literally just claps the guy's head out of existence. He just brings both hands in on either side of this guy's head and completely flattens it between his hands.
As the hands kind of come forward, like you said, you feel very little resistance as you clap both of his ears. And as his face kind of crunches, his mask falls off, as his eyes both kind of pop out, and all of his teeth just fall off and out of his mouth in a forward direction. A scatter of just hard bone hitting hard wood, and the glorping noise of the inner juices falling to the ground at such a high spot. And Max kind of pulls his hands about, and that stringy brain matter hangs between his palms as the body too falls to the ground.
And yeah, Max, he is getting kind of hungry, so he probably just opened his mouth while that happened. So it was just like,
And so you take in not a dot of hunger, unfortunately, but you wet your tongue a little bit.
mm-hmm.
Vera, make your attack. As the clap happens, you're hucking your knife across.
I
the
rolled
sky.
a 5.
Would you like to use any willpower?
Oh, I'm real light on willpower here.
I know. Yeah.
No, I'm gonna just leave it.
Okay. So as you throw the knife across at this guy's flashlight who whips around the corner, who had whipped around the corner the round prior, and as the knife flies, you actually can hear him go, "Ugh," as a knife sinks into him somewhere. It's hard to see past the blinding flashlight, even with heightened senses, but you can hear him with your heightened senses, a very breathy, like, surprise gasp as he takes the knife somewhere nearby.
Wonderful.
That will be, that's that front round, which leaves us just to Duke. Duke is waiting extremely patiently as the fog completely fills up the kitchen. And as the door finally swings open on this round, he begins to, as he steps in, he would sweep to his right first, followed by his left. You would hear the door open, and you'd be able to see a hazy figure in the fog, though difficult to see. What would Duke do as he begins to step in? Can I get a dex stealth check from you first, please? Sorry.
Of course.
He will get a
it's
wit's
not
awareness to
exactly-
maybe be aware of you first.
I'm gonna get intimate with this guy. If he's gonna use this gun in close quarters, even smoke or not, I know that I can lock eyes with him. So I'm gonna Swayze my way on into those eyes.
Okay, so as he whips to turn, as he tries to pull a shot on you, I want you to make your roll first.
What would you like me to roll?
You're trying to lock him. You're trying to mesmerize, right?
Yes.
You want to try and lock eyes
Yes.
with him.
Yes. 7 successes.
And what is the command you want to give this guy?
Turn around. Lock your fingers behind your back. And try to count the dimples on the ceiling.
And as you do so, his gun kind of gets lowered, and he'll begin to slowly turn around.
And I'll draw the fillet knife across his throat. The last thing he hears is ear to ear.
The next round begins. Vera and Max, you have one individual that you threw a knife into, flashlight in the area. Do you both attack him? He's a good distance from Max. He's less of a distance from Vera.
I mean, he's kill him.
You want to throw another
yes,
knife at him is
is
what
the
I'm saying?
answer.
Like, how do we want to attack?
Yeah, I think I'll toss another knife.
Okay.
I can't rouse this time because
Max, you could throw something at him. You could like makeshift pick something up and huck it at him. You could pick up one of the guns and try and take a shot.
How close is he?
So from you, you're closer to the front door, and he's past the dance floor over by the hallway that leads into the back room. So he's like the entire main floor away from you.
Yeah, so even
Vera's
a
about
soaring
halfway
leap's
there.
not gonna close that.
Probably not.
Yeah, what the heck? You know, I'll put like I've got this guy as his
Yep.
body is slumping to the ground. I pull his revolver or his
Sure.
automatic out of his holster and take a couple of shots.
Dex plus firearms for you. Vera, what are you going to throw another knife?
no. If she sees Max has this, I think she goes over to the man who has a backwards head and she's gonna feed
Okay.
on all fours. She gets down on all fours and will feed.
I want Max to make the roll, and I'm going to need a defense roll from you, Vera, as he tries to shoot you while Max is attacking him.
Wait.
And I can rouse to get a bonus on this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm gonna.
What's your hunger at?
Hunger's at 3 currently.
Okay.
5.
Beautiful. Do you want to... You could roll... You can technically... Oh, no, only one.
No, I will not willpower
Okay,
this.
cool. We see Max very quickly, as the body goes down, he kind of catches the semi-automatic, shoulders it, and it's been a while, Max, since you've used any real weapon like this. A weapon made for war. Sure, a handgun here, a pistol there. But in
Don't
a way,
forget the ball blasting shotgun.
and then the ball blasting shotgun, but military grade rifles like this is something you haven't held in probably decades, at least to this degree. And there's a natural feeling that kind of comes back. All those military instincts kind of just snap back into place once you have a gun like this. And as you kind of put him down sights without question, you pull the trigger and you actually watch as the bullets fly. And you actually see his flashlight kind of jitter a bit as he's riddled with bullets, but not before he too pulls the trigger on Vera as she runs across the dance floor, attempting to get a meal off this guy. And Vera, with your defense, I critted. You're going to take 5 aggravated damage. As all of a sudden, dragon rounds just fill your side, and you can just, you're like, and just feel it all, and just your veins themselves catch flame. You're not down. What's your health total?
It is 5.
So you would be okay. So you would not die
So,
because that's
I would-
not how kindred die. You would go into torpor, however. As you kind of run across the floor, the bullets hit your body, and you just kind of not stiffen up, but you just walk.
Question.
Yes.
What is considered once per turn? I can do this once per turn. So I can add, if I roused to make this, I
Sure.
can add at least 2 more die to this.
So you would be able to, if you succeeded on both, bring the damage down by 2.
Okay, good news. Vera did not get hungrier for that. So she does use fleetness to
You
try
did.
to make
You rolled
it
a 0.
across.
You rolled.
Oh,
you
you're
got
right. I
hungry.
did get hungrier.
So what did that put you at?
5.
Let
She's
me look
hungry
up the
now.
rolls.
So I'm going to have to frenzy, I believe.
Oh, you immediately have to roll a frenzy because it's blood fucking everywhere.
Everywhere.
So can I get a hunger frenzy roll from you, please? With 3, that is enough to withhold immediately frenzying as the bullets hit you. But
Wait,
make
so
me.
I still get the 2. Okay, so I got 2 additions. So I rolled those
So you're
2 die
taking
and
3
made it
instead of
6
5.
extras. Yes, that would be wonderful.
Yep,
I
so you're gonna take-
imagine she lets out a hiss like a giant black cat.
So you're at. What are you at then? Total just
so
3
2
damage.
health, 2 health, 3 damage. Yeah.
3 aggravated damage and 2 health. That's going to take at least 3 nights to heal.
Sorry, we'll get there.
depending on how you roll. But yes, you actually max as you load this guy with bullets. He actually crumples to the ground as you basically fire simultaneously. He dies as he falls to the ground, blood starting to pool by his left side where most of the bullets penetrated. And Vera takes a few hits, doesn't go down, but may stumble a couple of times before she arrives at the body who's on the ground. Again, she lets out this enormous hiss, and as she looks down, her gorgeous clothes have these burnt holes. And as you look to your skin, Vera, these dark brown charred circles kind of just riddle your side.
Yep.
So as Vera gets hit, Max, of course, is like,
Ah, shit, Vera, you okay?
She probably says something horrific like, I will feed on flesh. As she, like, just
Yep.
gnaws into
And you
this
just
guy.
watch her just sink in. And as the camera pulls away from that and makes its way down to the back alley, we hear Duke, as we enter, you hear the gunshots and even some screaming and some yelling from definitively Max's voice and maybe Vera's voice. You stand behind this guy as he begins to count the dimples on the ceiling. And as you said, you simply whisper in his ear to ear. And with an easy penetration with the fillet knife, you drag the knife across his neck as blood begins to just spurt and pour out down his neck into his body armor and his shirt. A few gurgles and spurts before he himself gets weak and he crumples before you. Combat ends.
Vera comes up for air after, like, feeding down. Can I feed down to a single dot?
What are you at? You're at.
I was at 5.
You're at 5. There's not enough blood to bring down to a single dot in this man's body. You can bring yourself down on which one did you do? The guy's neck.
The
that
one
was
whose
snapped?
head, yeah, so he's not bled out.
You're going to be able to pull 3 dots off of him.
Beautiful.
That's max.
That's enough. Vera comes up and, like, wipes away the blood, and she stands up. She's pissed. She pulls her hat off. She walks over to the bar. She starts grabbing bottles, and she says, "You want to burn the club? Let's help Shaun out, shall we?" And she starts smashing bottles all over the dance floor. It is not the first time this club is burned. Duke!
Duke, you can actually hear that as the blood finishes pouring and you watch him fall to the ground, the last twitches of life through his extremities before his body goes still and silent. You hear Vera's voice distantly on the dance floor.
I will walk out to see what the situation's like.
as you walk out, you see Max holding the headless body aloft with one hand and just sort of like pouring the blood from the neck stump right down into his mouth. How many dots can I get from this guy?
Which one was this one that you decided to drink? The head splatter one?
The one that I sort of...
Yeah,
like,
you get one. You get a single dot out of that after he's been
Okay.
spurting blood out of his neck hole for a couple rounds.
Yeah, so I did him, then I move on to the next body beside him. Grab that.
Yeah, that's the sight you were greeted with, Duke. The dance floor itself is devoid of kind at this point, having long escaped. But blood splatters, Vera looking like she's taken quite a beating on her side, and the man who you commanded dead on the floor with a knife and bullet holes in his chest. When you get a good look at him, he has actually a knife buried into his collarbone from when Vera flicked the knife across the room.
Well, dead they want us. And burn my club down, let's give them what they want, shall we?
Yeah, before you do that, I'm gonna get my cat and my comic books.
Don't worry, the basement has never burned, Max.
Yeah, well, we better hope not, because we got a guest down there, if you know what I mean.
Trust me, I've been in this theater twice as it burned down. Only the dance floor. Duke, it'll be a perfect cover for your Luther, and I want to assure he accounts for 3 bodies. A woman and 2 men. Once the fire has been put out, and the charcoals don't burn anymore, we can come back and stay in the basement. Let's hope Shaun is doing well. Maybe Larson will get word that Shaun's coterie is dead.
As the camera's about to cut, there's one last figure that makes their way into the dance floor from the back rooms, very quietly and slowly shuffling. As he gazes upon the floor, he looks up to Vera and says, "Shall I call the cleaning folk?"
As much as I'd like to say yes, John, tonight we are going to cleanse with fire.
I see. Well, and he shuffles across the rest of the floor with a gentle, gorgeous oaken box filled to the brim with cigars, as requested. And he hands it over to you quietly.
She says, thank you. I actually kind of hand it back. I need you to deliver it, John.
Where
To this address. I'll give him Arturo's office address.
He takes it and puts it in his pocket.
If anybody asks, there was an accident and the theater burned tonight.
As you wish. And as
Thank you, John.
he turns to shuffle and leave, and the camera quietly fades to black before once again the sounds of a highway and cars passing pick up in our ears. Larson's looking at his phone at the moment before he snaps it shut. Well, no word on those who hit the club, so if you're lucky, your friends are probably still alive and they succeeded, but looks like we got Kadir.
Nice.
We should be arriving any moment. And as he says that, the blinker of the car goes on. You can hear it blinking, and they pull off the highway. You're driven down some side roads for quite some time until eventually you're overtaken by a dirt road. Thick forest slowly encompasses both your left and your right. Before long, you've been driving an hour on this road. If you look behind you, nothing but woods, and in front of you, nothing but woods, save a gentle, distant yellow glow. You're not sure if it's from a light or a fire. It's too far away, but you can see it, certainly. The car continues to roll forward, and as you approach and the car gets closer, you actually notice a bird fly parallel at window height with the car. It follows as you drive along. The car is not going particularly fast. It's not like this bird is flying 70 miles an hour, but it still keeps pace. As you look over to see perhaps what kind of bird, you notice that it's a robin. Red-chested and brown-feathered. And in the middle of the night, it's bizarre. Every so often, it seems to tilt its head inward toward the car before flying off to the other side, but it always keeps pace. Until eventually, that light becomes more defined. The bird breaks off and flies into the forest. Nobody says a word about it. And you can see a giant double-ended gate with a wooden fence that seems to encompass a few buildings in the back. On the top is an arch where one might put the name of a ranch or something, but there are no words there, no symbols, just a simple wooden arch that has certainly seen many years pass by. This is no new place. And as you approach, there are two figures that stand in front of the double gates. The car comes to a rolling quiet stop, and a spotlight is turned on all of a sudden, and it beams down onto the car. You simply hear a tap as as the one on the left, a middle-aged woman, taps on the window with what looks to be some sort of AK. She makes a gesture for the window to be rolled down, and as it does, she simply looks over to Larson and says, "You know the deal. Everybody out. Everybody getting checked." Larson just nods. He looks to you, Shaun, and says, "Just get out and do as they say." The car doors open, and everybody kind of stands out, and this woman gestures to a younger kid, maybe somewhere in his early 20s, as best you can place him, with these really sparkling blue eyes. Makes a gesture for him to check, and he goes over each one, patting them down very intensely, making sure no phones are taken. Larson willingly hands over his phone before they even pat for it, and any other weapons that he had, a pistol and a stake in his leg now that you realize as it gets pulled out. The rest hand over their weapons as well until the young kid comes over to you. He doesn't ask for permission. He doesn't say a word. He just immediately begins patting you down. Is there anything on Shaun that he would find that you might try and hide, perhaps?
He would find a pistol in Shaun's waistband. He would find a phone that Larson gave to him.
Sure. Anything else? Did you try and hide anything, or anything that I would need to make a roll for, or you need to make a roll for to hide?
Probably a pack of cigarettes.
Sure. As they kind of pat you down, they pull the gun out of your waistband. They hand it over to the girl, who puts it in a pile, and they kind of take everything off of you and really thoroughly go through what they can. They unload all of your guns, mags, chambers. It all becomes unloaded. They place it in a pile over by the entrance. Says, "You'll get this back when you leave." She gestures for you all to make your way into the car, and as everybody loads in, she pats the trunk twice with a heavy thud. The double gates begin to swing open as a spotlight turns off, and in you roll. What you see before you is a campsite. Certainly retrofitted and certainly probably abandoned a long time ago, as a lot of the wooden buildings here are seeing rot at the edges and decay. There are a few projects clearly in the works, as a few of the buildings themselves seem to have had patchwork done. There's clear new wood being put into some of these buildings, while the surrounding of it is still kind of old and darker and wood and water rotted and logged and the like after years and years of unseasonably being ignored. There are, at first glance, somewhere between 10 and 20 people that you can make as you roll through. Maybe a good 6 or 7 buildings of varying sizes as well. As Shaun rolls through, the first thing that kind of comes into your mind is a compound. You've watched some true crime in the past. This fits those typical naturey cult people who live in the woods and think the end of the world is coming or something. The way they're dressed, the way they act, the way all these buildings are taken care of, and clearly as you pass by a farm growing potatoes or something or some food to keep themselves self-sufficient. Larson says nothing as you continue to roll through, and the only light in the area are a couple of flashlights a couple of spotlights on a few buildings that are spotlighting the entrance. But beyond that, just a few torches that are kind of scattered about. But you're rolled in further until a main building is very clearly in front of you. Perhaps a lodge at some point for when this camp was active, where the camp counselors got together, or perhaps business was taken care of. But the car is pulled up to the side, turned off as the lights go off, and everybody starts leaving except for Larson. The door's shut, but Larson stays in the car with you. He waits for the rest to leave before he once again turns himself around to the chair. If you have any questions, now's the time to ask.
How long you got?
He takes a moment like he was going to answer that seriously, and then smirks. In all honesty, Shaun, is there anything you need to ask now before we head in there?
Actually, yeah. Where's Meer?
He not caught by surprise at all by the question. Simply says, "She's here." You'll
Cool.
likely see her, maybe not tonight, but in a few days. I'm sure she'll be really excited to see you. I don't think she knows you're coming. I didn't tell her.
It's been a while then.
He nods.
One big happy family.
He not entirely sure how to take that. He smirks very, very gently. As I said, he's a good man. Maybe a little paranoid these past few nights, but who of us isn't? Address him by his title. Nothing else.
What's that then?
Just call him Father. And he, as Shaun looks maybe a little confused, no, he's not the one that is your sire. It's just his preferred name.
Name, title. Okay, gotcha.
You ready?
Don't think so. Are we ever?
At that, he just opens the door and with a heavy step steps out. He opens your door as well. And as you turn to look at the main building that you're going to be led up, there are a couple of private security on the outside. And I say private security, it's not like they're uniformed or belong to a company. They're clearly just members of the people who live here, dressed in everyday attire. One has an AK slung across his chest and the other has just a pistol strapped to his leg. You walk by and as Larson gives them a nod and they give him one without words. And they open the door. As the doors swing open, you're greeted with a very, very intense smell of like bacon or cooking meat. It's incredibly, not overpowering, but it's certainly the dominating smell as you step in. And when you walk in, this room is large. Perhaps at one point, there were plenty of tables across the center where camp and camp counselors would get together. Maybe now that you're in here, you realize this might have just been the commissary, not necessarily some sort of main building for business or anything. But all the tables have been stripped away. A couple are actually leaning up against the wall on your left-hand side, but the whole center floor is entirely empty. At the very end, there's a bunch of pillows thrown up against the wall. No particular chair, but these pillows are filled with figures sitting and chatting with one another. Men and women of varying ages, maybe about another 10 of them, putting your guess at somewhere between 20 and 30 here at total. But in the center is one that stands out from the rest. He's completely clean-shaven and absolutely bald, save for a long ponytail that just goes down the center of his head. The sides of his head are bald, and it's very tightly braided. It falls to what you can tell, probably somewhere around his waist. It's hard to tell while he's sitting down, but it is rather long. He's smiling and laughing with a couple of the boys that are sitting around him, maybe telling them a joke as they jovially laugh along as well. And as you get about halfway across, Larson kind of leans in. That's him. He stops, looks to you. Go introduce yourself. He's expecting you.
All right.
Larson peels away and stands by a nearby support pole for the, that goes up to the ceiling, and he watches.
Shaun goes up to him and stands in front of him. Is he gonna like stop talking, or is he just kind of...
Shaun walks up and stands in front of him, giving him his attention, and he actually does immediately cease with his talking. He looks you up and down, and there's a genuine look of confusion for a moment before he looks past you and catches eyes with Larson. He nods quickly and pushes himself up to his feet. He reaches out as though he's going to give you a handshake. You get a good look at his attire now, and he wears very loose-fitting robes, and almost that exclusively. They're a vibrant purple with blue flowers that trickle down the sleeves and then lead to a just kind of gradient shift of color to a deeper red by the base of his robe. And he reaches his hand out to give you a handshake.
Shaun reaches out and grabs his hand.
And before you can say anything, as he grabs your hand and you grab his, he actually pulls you in. And he reaches his other arm around you. And the handshake is turned to a hug.
Shaun lets out a bit of a gasp of surprise, but eventually pulls him in and pats him on the back.
As there's the mutual kind of exchange, after a few moments, he kind of steps back and puts his hand on your shoulders and brings his right hand to the back of your head where he ruffles your hair a little bit. He looks past and he looks at Larson. Shaun. And you say yeah, but Larson gives a quiet nod that you can't see before he turns back to you. You can now see his ponytail goes past his waist as he leaves his hands on your shoulders. He looks you very, very he looks very comfortable as he looks you in the eye. He says, "You know how long I have been waiting for you?"
No idea. But
10 years. 10 years.
It lines up with some things.
Yeah, I bet it does, and I bet you have so many questions.
Yeah.
Shaun, welcome home. You are of more import than you realize. Long ago, you probably forgot by now, but long ago, you and Larson got together. There were a few others there. But you were given something. Something very, very special. That only a very few felt anything with. A little pill. You've been chosen, Shaun. And I am here to be your shepherd. Welcome home. And he kind of just drags his fingertips across your cheek and pinches your chin before he turns back to the others and he kind of just raises his hands and all of them stand. He waves them over and they just encompass you and circle around, arm in arm. They smile. They come close, maybe a foot to 6 inches each, and each one with genuine warmth in their voice welcome you home. Welcome home, Shaun. As our ears are filled with the chanting and echoing of welcome home, Shaun, welcome home, our vision is drawn to a nearby torch. The flame is brought close enough to engulf our entire being, and just as the flame is about to consume, our vision is drawn back. But instead of a familiar room where those are welcoming Shaun, instead we see the Succubus Club, engulfed and devoured by flame. And as our vision draws further, it becomes apparent that on this very night, the Succubus Club is the brightest spot on the block. Thank you so much for listening to Season 2. We'll see you next time.